All right, going to see some nice fall colors, and hopefully nobody's coming. All right, so a little bit of food for thought on maintaining your vehicles. Something I've always done, and again, I don't make a lot of money, right? The past couple of years has been really tough for me. The past 2 years, strangely enough, has been actually pretty good for me. But the 3 years before that was just, anybody that followed my old channel, you know how much I was struggling. And it wasn't that because I didn't want to work or anything, it's just there was no work. Now there's an overabundance of work because so many people are taking the CERB or whatever. You know, basically basic universal income up here in Canada. So you got a whole bunch of people that just, you know, it's actually like the waitresses and stuff like that. They were working part-time, minimum wage, shit hours and shit pay. You know, $1,000 a month. If they were making that, you know, if they weren't making that, they got a pay raise. If they were making, like, bringing home maybe $1,200 a month, you know, it might be worth it for them to sit at home, you know, for that extra $200. Now, that's left a work shortage. Now, in the labor department, there's some people that are comfortable with sitting at home for $1,000 a month. They, you know, they don't live outside their means, okay, but it's not going to be a very good means at $1,000 a month. Now, the problem is, if your vehicles cost you $1,000 a month every time to run, then you're not making any money. So your vehicle has to make money somehow. And by making money, I mean it has to cover its daily fuel and some, right? So that you're never just paying money to work for gas money. I know a lot of people that did that, you know, and that's when the gas prices were cheap. They'd work a part-time job, and by the time the end of the week, all they did is burn gas money. You know, working like short shifts and stuff like that. There's nothing worse than like a 2 or 3 hour shift that doesn't pay well. You know what I mean? And working 5 days a week or something like that on 2 or 3 hours a day. You can't make money doing that unless you're paid really well, right? So if you got an okay wage coming in, and I talked previously how to afford 2 trucks, or it doesn't really matter how many trucks it is, it's really how long are they going to run for. And as long as they're running really well and all that good stuff, you don't really have to worry that much about you know, reliability in that. You can make money. You know, like this truck I paid $500 for, and I put about $400 in brake repairs on it so far. So $900. I basically pay this truck off at least once a week for the past year. So not so bad, but I bought the other truck, and that pretty much almost took up an entire month's of income, right? So it doesn't take much to get broke with vehicles. It doesn't. But the thing is as long as they last long enough, and usually my first year, I don't put much money into a vehicle. I want to see how long is it going to last. Like, is it going to be something that it's going to break every 5 minutes? You know, okay, you get 2 months, oh, this, you know, like, is it really that bad? If you have a second vehicle, the nice thing is you might be able to pick up a vehicle like this for $200 after you do an assessment on it, saying, I'm going to look at that truck. I'm going to take a week to look at it. And say, oh, it needs this, and you just run off a list. Say, I'm not going to give you $1,000, I'm going to give you 500. Me, I got the nephew's discount, so I got this for 500. But my uncle was going to sell it for 800. He was thinking more of a parts truck. I was thinking if I can get another 5 to 7 years out of this thing, I'm laughing. I'm on year 1, right? Correction, I don't have to get a safety next year. If I go to sell the vehicle, it has to be re-safety, which it probably won't pass. But if everything else is good enough, I'll invest a little bit into this truck. If I put $1,000 of repairs into this truck per year, I still make money with it. But at what, you know, at year 3 or 4, you're starting to get into another truck, right? So when you decide when you drive it till it dies, or when you decide when you know, put repairs on it, well, that's a different call for everybody. But the way I'm doing it is, if it looks like I just can't, I'm losing sleep over or getting anxiety driving any lengths of distance, like, you know, like this is starting to get a little miss. And I think I know what it is. I think my timing chains are ready for replacement. That's going to be a big job. That's going to be a big job. I'll have have to cost everything out to replace everything that needs to be replaced on it and say, is it worth it or not? Chances are it probably isn't. The frame's still good on this truck. That's a good thing. I'm going to pay a body guy and a mechanic to look at this thing in the fall before I park it and say, tell me everything it needs. Do the compression check. Even if I spend, like, say, $500, I would spend $500 or $700 to find out whether it's worth putting another $500 or $700 into it. You know what I mean? Then you know whether you're going to drive it till it dies. Some stuff's going to be obvious, okay? This thing isn't burned in smoke. You know what I mean? It doesn't burn that much oil given its age. It's 2002. Okay, it starts pretty good, all that stuff. The belts are okay. My uncle maintained this thing fairly well. I maintain my trucks once a week on the preliminaries, check the tires, check the oil, check the, you know, all the fluids. I do all that once a year, or once a week, providing I have the time to do it. Okay, and that little goes a long way. Once a month I climb underneath the actual vehicle and look for things that are broken. I whack things with a hammer just to see how they're doing. And I do that. And what I find is that a lot of times I get under there with the wire brush and also the oil slick brush, the body, you know, what do you call it, the winterization oil there that I use, the body spray stuff. I get under there and I just gunk it with that, and I monitor, I clean things, I do whatever, and it's like, this thing isn't that bad. You know, I got a few issues with it, but nothing I can't live with. Like, for example, this winter before I park it, I'm gonna have to pour the oil pan off of this thing just to see if there's any of those cam chain slider bits in here in the oil pan blocking my. That's why you see my oil. You know, it's either just the sensor or on my oil thing, or there's actually pieces of plastic blocking my oil pump from time to time. It's something that is common on these 4.6 and 5.4 liter engines, and it's good to know. But that said, other than that, these engines, these overhead cam engines, are pretty bulletproof, pretty reliable. They're known for getting over 400,000 miles on them from time to time. They do get high mileage if you maintain them half-ass. Which you have to consider is really good. You know what I mean? So you got a truck that's got a reputation for reliability. Like if I buy a diesel, I'm looking for, might be considered an underpowered truck, but like a pre-07, late 02 to 07 Ford Power Stroke. Why? Because those engines get a gazillion miles on them, or kilometers, depending on where you are. I'm in kilometers, but you get the idea. They get a lot of mileage. Oh, check out that little short. That'd be a fun truck. One thing I do want is a short box truck for the winter. And I'll tell you why. Anybody that's ever driven a short box truck in the winter, whee! You know the fun you're gonna have. But it has to be 4x4. But anyway, yeah, just maintaining your vehicles, regular maintenance once a week, checking the belts, checking, you know, all that stuff. Keeping up on your battery, checking for loose connections. You'd be surprised how many vehicles make it to the scrapyard because of one fucking wire. You know what I mean? Trust me, I've seen it happen. You know, like, oh, the ground wires, the terminals just rotted off. You change the terminal, the vehicle runs perfectly. Like no other issues. It pays to get knowledge, it really does. But yeah, maintain your vehicles. It's hard maintaining two vehicles, so you got to alternate them. But when you have two cheap vehicles like I do, you know, again, if you know what you're looking at, you can buy a vehicle that ugly trucks make money. That's going to be my next vehicle. Ugly trucks make money. Pretty ones don't, because pretty ones cost too much. But something that's got little to no rust on it, or maybe a little bit of rust on it, but everything is in good shape otherwise, but it's got dents, man, you get good discounts on that. So, but yeah, just maintain your vehicles. And once you get enough money where you can start paying other people to maintain your vehicle, then you're laughing. All right, I'll leave it at that.